because my doubt bucket was a lot bigger than my belief bucket, I had to borrow that belief from some people. For you, that was your trainer, right? It's like I had to borrow that, them seeing it more in me than I saw it in myself then, you know? Right. And so eventually that doubt bucket got a little bit smaller. My belief bucket got a little bit bigger. But if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, man, like they just have so much belief in themselves. Or like, I wish I had that confidence. It's like, be very picky who you surround yourself with, and be around people that are going to speak life into you, that want to see you win, that want to see you do well, because that borrowed belief can change everything for, I mean, it changed exactly where you're at today, you know? Yeah.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best You podcast. Today, I'm super stoked to be joined by the one and only Kelsey Lensman. Kelsey, just want to start off by saying thanks so much for spending the time with me today.
Oh, Nick, I appreciate it. I'm so excited we connected a little bit before the podcast, just talk all things, obviously Best You, but you know what we can do to level up as a human. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like me and you are so similar. I feel like you are me in a woman's body. So I'm super excited. Like I've gotten through some of your Instagram stories over the last couple of weeks and some of your posts and stuff, and I'm like, we're going to freaking vibe. So I'm pumped about this. But to quickly give an overview to everybody around kind of why this podcast is happening is Kelsey is doing a project called Mission 48, where she is doing 48 different fitness competitions in 48 states in 48 days. And so all of you guys are like, holy crap, that's insane. Yeah, I know. I think the same thing. But she's starting on September 1st and going to October 18th, and she's doing it all to benefit an organization called ROCKS, which is Ruling Our Experiences, and it's an organization that does 20-week programs in schools for young girls, and it teaches them about self-confidence, body image, and leadership skills, and it's a really cool organization, and I just want to throw that right off the bat, and if any of you guys are inspired by that right now, then you can go to her website at kelseylensman.com to learn more and to contribute, because they've got fundraising goals and everything like that. So wanted to throw that right off the bat. But before we dive particularly into kind of that competition and all that sort of stuff, I want to start off with a little bit of your background. I know that you have a degree in sports medicine from Ohio State, and I was telling you a little bit of my story beforehand about how I was kind of potentially going to go down one path and then pivoted towards another, and yours is pretty similar. You were going to go to physical therapy graduate school, but then you kind of had this other calling. And so I want to kind of pick up at that part of your story, and what was the pivot point? What kind of led to you deciding to pivot from your original plan or original vision?
Oh, that's a great question. And Nick, I appreciate you doing your research. This is the best podcast I've been on so far of like, you did this, you did this. I appreciate it a ton. But when we kind of go back to that journey, so that was senior year of college, and you said you were 2 weeks into your career. I was basically 2 months from graduating, and I had my whole life planned out, Nick. I was like, all right, I'll go to PT grad school. I have 2.5 kids. I'll have a white picket fence. Like I had my whole life planned out. And that version of Kelsey, like she was very play it safe, very different than the version you guys see today. And so, but I had a gut feeling 2 months before I graduated, everybody was getting grad school letters in, everything was coming in of like, Kels, there's something else out there for you. And I really had no clue what that looked like. I had no clue what business that would look like or how I would even help people. All I knew was the Kelsey 2 years prior to that and the Kelsey today were two different people. She went from being very kind of frustrated, losing herself, really not even knowing who she was, to working, yes, on her fitness, but it was also so much deeper than that. Her mindset, her, like what she enjoyed, like what she liked. And I'm like, well, if I could do it, like anybody could do it, you know? And so I view fitness, and it sounds very similar. Like you're a whole human. It's not just what you eat. It's not just how you train. It's not just what you put in your mind and who you're around. It's everything. And I was seeing in the fitness and especially sports medicine world, how people were being like, it's just what you eat that matters, or it's just this ankle sprain, you rehabbing it. And I'm like, no, all the parts of you matter, you know? And so there's a quote of be the change that you want to see. And I was scared out of my mind, Nick. I had no clue what I was doing, but I'm like, Kelsey, you got to go for it now. Like there's no other option, you know? And so that's where, you know, I started business, and it led to what it is today.
Yeah. So how quickly then after graduation did you start EmpowHER Fitness? I know it's your brand. So how quickly after that did you start?
Oh, like a day after I graduated. So
Holy crap.
I didn't have a job after that. I said, okay, Kelsey, you got to go all in. I'm a very all in type of human when it comes to like making certain decisions, not in the fitness world, but in certain decisions. And so I started my LLC. It was actually, oh my gosh, Nick, back in the day, I was still in college and I was selling programs for like $20. Everyone was like,
Right.
Kelsey, you're so undercharging. But I'm like, no, I just want to give value. And so I was selling programs for like $20. Then I actually started my LLC. It was KML Movement, which is my name, and then movement at the end. And then Empower, we rebranded about a year ago to Empower. So that was right out the gates that I started.
Wow. And so it seems like one of the things that you got into pretty early on was doing different sorts of competitions. You've done all sorts of competitions. You've done bodybuilding competitions, powerlifting competitions, Olympic lifts, and a lot of different other events. What got you into that world?
I never thought I would do it, to be honest with you. I never saw this version of me. And I think that's a message I really want to hit home with your audience of like the version that people see today on Instagram or the Kelsey that's speaking to you. A lot of people think, well, she just always looked like that. You know, she was always outgoing. She's always just like this go for it girl. And I was to potentially an extent, but not nearly to the extent I am today. And it's funny, Nick, if I kind of revert back, probably junior, senior year of college, I was in the gym working out. I had somebody tap me on the shoulder and was like, Kels, have you ever thought about doing a bodybuilding competition? And I'm like, you talking to me? Like, you're out of your mind if you think I'm doing a bodybuilding competition. Number one, this body, like, how do I even get it up there? Like, it didn't connect in my brain. And two, a sparkly bikini, that's not me, you know? But then it kind of sat in my brain for a little bit. And this might hit home with you or your audience of the question of like, what if? Well, what if I could actually do that? You know, like what if I could actually do what it takes to get to there? And that question stirred in me more and more. And then I finally one day was like, just freaking go for it. Like that might not be you. You might not be able to see yourself there right now. Same thing for your audience. You might have a massive goal that it's like, I don't even know how I'm going to get there. But you just say, let's freaking go for it. And then that has, Nick, led to 5 bodybuilding shows. And then I'm like, oh, I like lifting heavy in the gym. Then it's led to powerlifting meets. And so I tell everybody, like, just set a big goal. You might not be able to see it yet, but it'll lead you to places that you never thought you could go. And I never thought I could do the things that I'm doing today, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think one of the podcast guests that I had a long time ago said something to the extent of we got to have goals, but the purpose of a goal is not always to achieve the goal itself. It's because you're going to end up in a lot better place than if you had no goals in the first place. And so to me, one of the biggest takeaways there is if something is potentially calling you to like go in that direction, like freaking go and see what can happen of it, because you might meet certain people, you might learn certain things that move you in a trajectory that you couldn't have otherwise seen if you didn't take step one in that first place. And I know I can relate with that to a high level. So if something is calling you, like go flirt with it, take action, see what happens and see what could potentially come of it. I want to dive into this 48-day competition. So I actually did a few years ago, I did a thing that was, now it seems it pales in comparison, but I did like a project called 52 Gyms in 52 Weeks where I went to a different gym every single week of the year and like documented it. And so that's what I thought about when I saw your thing. First off, what made you come up with the idea of like 48 fitness competitions and as many days?
Well, it's funny, Nick. I originally had weeks. So this idea, talk about, you know, creating an idea was 2 years ago. Like I've been sitting on the idea, Nick, for 2 years. And honestly, I've been too afraid to like actually take action on it. If I'm being brutally honest with myself and with everybody. And so 2 years ago, I was watching a documentary and it was called Iron Cowboy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but listen, this is going to blow your mind then. So he did 50 Ironmans, full marathon, 112 plus mile bike, 2 mile swim in 50 states in 50 days and with 5 kids in one RV. Like that.
Wow. I think I've heard of that, but okay, I'll have to watch this.
Yeah, if you've never watched documentary, I highly recommend. And the reason, very similar to what you said before, it's not just the goal, it's like who you become to get to that goal. It was so inspiring of, yes, the high moments, like when he was coming in to Utah and there were thousands of people with him, but it was also the low moments where he was like, why am I even doing this? Right? Like he was kind of getting some heat on social media for certain decisions that he made. He's like, like, why am I even doing this?
Mm.
And I know I've related to that in my journey, in my fitness journey, is like, well, why am I even going on this journey? Some doubts or some discouragements can set in. And it was so inspiring to see how he got up and how he just kept going and what came up through that. And so once again, the what if question, right?
Yeah.
After I was watching that documentary, I was like, well, what if I love pushing my limits in all parts, not just strength or not just endurance, even though that's like my hard part. I was like, well, what if I did 40 different competitions, right? To show people that you can break all beliefs of like what's capable in 48 states, but I originally had 48 weeks. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I could do a Spartan race on a Saturday. Then I could speak at a school for young girls, talk about confidence on a Wednesday or something. And then only about 2.5 months ago, Nick, I was on a call with a guy, and he actually bear crawled a marathon, the guy that I was on a call with. And so he knew a little bit about sponsors and how to pull everything together. And he's a great dude, crazy, but great dude. And he was like, okay, he goes, well, what if, 48 comps in 48 states in 48 days? And he kept saying this over and over again to me. And I was like, whoa, I just want to let you know, like, this is weeks, not days. That's vastly different logistics there. And he's like, well, Kelsey, if you think about it, our attention spans are goldfish. Like, people scroll, if they don't like the first thing they see, then they'll keep scrolling, right? He's like, if you want to have the impact that you want to have, if you want the momentum and the movement of women and everybody doing this together, if you shorten it up, you're going to have that impact versus you're going to lose people after 2 weeks. So I literally 12 hours later, I transitioned all the logistics, made it to days, and here we are today.
Jeez. Yeah, that's insane. I mean, hey, one good thing is you'll get it over sooner than dragging it out after 48
October
weeks.
19th, I want to be tapped out. Nobody talks to me October.
Yeah.
Yet.
Oh yeah, for sure. You'll have to do something great on that day / the coming weeks after that. What are you most nervous about going into it?
There's two things. One thing is, can we even pull it off? Like, I'm very far into this process. And I mean, for many people that have goals out there, like, you can be actively pursuing a goal and still question, can you do it? And it's okay. And so I think the biggest one is I have the route, I have the logistics, I have everything, but it's like, okay, September 1 is the day. Like, can we actually pull off the sponsors that we need, the everything that we need to do it? And so I have very much belief, but there's still a little bit of the doubt of, oh my gosh, like, what happens if we can't do it, And I think also I'm nervous about, if I'm being very, very honest with everybody on this podcast, is, can I physically endure the 48 days? Because it's not small things that I have on there. I mean, I have a marathon on there. I have a push pull on there. And like I said, like, I believe in my capabilities, but I've never done something like this before, and so it's a lot of betting on myself and a lot of betting on like people coming together with me and supporting and being there. So those are two things that I'm being very raw and honest about, that I'm nervous about, to be honest with you. But there's also a lot on the flip side that it makes those doubts or those nerves pale in comparison to what I'm excited about too.
That's great. So kind of along the same lines, can we pull it off? Can I physically endure it? And then, you talked about the Iron Cowboy guy who had all these doubts of like, why am I even doing this? And, you might have some doubts when you're training, like, why the hell am I doing this thing? Like, I'm working so hard, I'm exhausted. Like, why am I doing this? And you'll have the same thoughts when amidst the 48 days as well. What are some things that you're going to tap into so that you can continue to keep going, right? Because there's a lot of people who are at a much lesser scale are eating healthy and they might not be really enjoying what they're eating. So like, why am I even doing this? Like, I want to just grab that burger. Like, I don't want to order this salad or like something like that. So they're going to have the similar sorts of feelings. So what are you going to tap into to overcome that and keep going?
This is a good question. I think this is so important for your audience to hear, because like you said, there's going to be people on their fitness journey, on a career journey, that there's going to be some small moments, like me potentially mile 18 on the marathon, where I'm like, why am I even doing this? Questions can come in, doubts can come in. And I honestly heard this from Iron Cowboy in this documentary, so I'll bring it up here. And he says, especially when he was doing that, he goes, you have to grab a bag of whys, right? Like people talk about what's your one why. And he goes, when you have something so big that you're going after, that can be losing weight, that can be going on a fitness journey, that can be mission 48, right? It doesn't have to be this crazy thing that I'm going after. He goes, but when you have such a big thing that you're going after, sometimes just one why isn't going to be enough, right? It's not going to be that little piece. So he goes, sometimes you need to have a different why. And so one of my whys, no doubt, is going to be when I'm in that deep, dark moment. Because I know it's inevitable. It's going to happen, right? I'm going to be like, why did I do this? Why did I just, why did I put myself in this situation? I'm going to have to think about that one sixth grade to seventh grade girl, right? We're partnering with Rocks. They do the 20-week programs in schools for young girls that is struggling right now so deep with confidence, that is struggling with, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like all these deep things that I know Rocks could just change their life in such a best trajectory for them. So I'm going to have to think of like, what is that one girl? Maybe her name's Sarah. And when I'm in that deep, dark moment, maybe not getting myself through, I can't just bank on myself sometimes. Maybe it's Sarah I got to do it for. Versus another time it's like, Kels, like, you got this, girl. Maybe I can say, like, I want to do it for myself. Right. Yeah. And so I got to pull out some different whys and especially different moments. And I've been thinking about those even as I've been training, because of some of the training sessions, I'm like, geez Louise, man, I've never trained like this before. It's like, it's kind of cultivating me into thinking, okay, like, who is going to be your why? What is going to be your why as you keep persisting through this?
Yeah, no, I think that's so great. One of the things that I always coach people to do when they're starting off with a 10-week transformation is they have to build out what their why is. And I have them do that in kind of 3 different directions. And the first part is, what are you trying to avoid? And what are the things that you don't want to happen? Number 2, what are the things that you do want to happen? And who do you want to become? And what do you want to be able to do? And then 3, who are you doing it for? Like, who are you going to be able to positively impact? But no, I think you're so right. I think that having as many sources of motivation as possible is super powerful. And especially if you can have people in mind, like faces in mind. I know that's always helped me, because one of the things that I always say is that your why isn't just what gets you started, but it's what keeps you going when what you started gets tough. And so tapping into that is so important for all of us whenever it is that we're facing the doubts, the dark moments, the why the hell are we doing this moment. So I think that's so great. We're going to take a brief pause in this episode to tell you about our brand new, never seen before, best in class virtual 10-week transformation experience. You can check it out today by going to nickcarrier.com. Now look, if you're somebody who needs accountability to execute on a consistent basis with eating healthy and exercise, this virtual 10WT experience is for you. If you're somebody who is upset with themselves when they look at themselves in the mirror, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally, then the 10-week transformation is for you. If you're somebody who kind of knows what to do, but you struggle to actually do it, the 10-week transformation is for you. If you're somebody who loves community and loves support and loves being held accountable, the 10-week transformation is for you. With the 10WT, we teach people how to form the healthy habits that will transform their body and their life. And now we have a brand new, robust version of the program that can be completed from your home, your gym, or your anywhere. I mean, whether you live in Nashville or San Francisco, Atlanta or New York City, Houston or Denver, LA or Chicago, Sydney, Australia, or Toronto, Canada, you can even complete this thing in your hotel room. Our brand new virtual 10WT experience is like nothing you've ever seen before. We've had 453 people and counting who have skyrocketed their self-confidence by losing fat, building muscle, and building habits that they now have ingrained in their lifestyles by completing the 10WT. And it can do the same for you. Starting August 7th, we're going to be coaching a group of 30 go-getters through their first ever 10WT experience, and you have the opportunity to be one of the first. But there are limited spots available. Like I said, there are 30 spots, and they're going to go fast. So sign up by Tuesday, August 1st to secure your spot by going to nickcarrier.com. Again, by August 1st, go to nickcarrier.com. Again, if you need a greater level of accountability, the 10WT is for you. If you need help staying consistent with your workouts and eating habits, the 10WT is for you. If you want to form healthy habits going into holiday season, the 10WT is for you. Remember, sign up by August 1st to secure your spot. There are only 30 available by going to nickcarrier.com. When you join, I promise you, be prepared to show the world the healthiest, most confident, and best version of you. Go to nickcarrier.com to sign up today. Talk to me a little bit about where the idea of doing it for Rocks came from. I know that you're very intentional about talking about how the past version of yourself pales in comparison to the current version of yourself, and probably a lot from confidence issues. And so is that kind of why? Because you've seen the importance of confidence building in your own journey, but talk to us about why that was the reason why you're doing this, or the benefit that you're doing it for.
Yeah, nobody's asked me this question. So good. Nobody's asked me this. So it's twofold for me. One, I think about high school, college, middle school Kels, right? Like outwardly, she was an athlete. Outwardly, she was probably outgoing to people. Outwardly, she was this version where people saw a different version of me than I saw in myself. And internally, I wasn't that confident. I remember, Nick, I played basketball when I was in high school. I would be so nervous to go out in that court because if I didn't make a shot, like my confidence plummeted. And I would be so nervous to do certain things and or make the wrong decision or fail in this part of it. And through my journey, I talk about a lot about self-confidence. It's not just this body, it's not about just about this thing that you're getting externally. It's when you keep promises to you, your self-confidence rises. And like that's I call that like the unshakable self-confidence, not what you're seeing scrolling on Instagram. It's like the things deeply that nobody can take away from you, you know? Mm-hmm. So when I think about that version, I'm like, man, if somebody would have came to me when I was a middle school, high schooler and talked to me really about what confidence was, my view would be so differently on it. My trajectory would have been differently on it. So I think about that. And it's funny with Rocks. I live in Columbus, Ohio. And there's actually Rox's HQ is in Columbus. I had no idea until that recently. But there's a few schools that I know the guidance counselors really well. And she was like, hey, Kels, can you come and talk to our Rocks crew? It was like 2.5 years ago. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, but what is Rocks? And she was telling me about Rocks. And I went in to speak to those girls. And they were middle schoolers. And they were saying things about communication, about leadership, about confidence. Then I'm like, geez, man, if I knew that at that age, how different would my trajectory have been up until this point, you know? And we work with a lot of women, all ages. And I'm a firm believer of like, if you can instill those values or those beliefs in young girls, you know, the younger you can get them about confidence, it only is going to help them, you know, later. And so it was a no brainer when I was thinking about, okay, yes, cool. Mission 48, 48 comps in 48 states, but why? Like, why are you actually doing this, Kels? It's not just have people watch you do this, but like, what's deeper than this? And it was one, having women push their hard, whatever that is, and doing it with me. But it's also like, hey, can we change 10,000 girls' lives that I might not even know their names, but their trajectory is going to be different about what we're doing here with it.
Yeah, that's so great. I think that if everybody thought through how could they help the former version of themselves, like how could they, in some way, shape, or form, how could they do that, then they would feel so much fulfillment and gratification from that. And I know I have a younger sister who her name is actually Kelsey as well, played basketball in high school, probably like you, she's perfectionist tendencies. And so if she was like the best one on the team, but if she missed a shot, she felt like she let everybody down. And so I know that she's listening right now and very much resonating with you. And confidence is a thing that to me leads to everything in life because it determines whether or not you take action and everything like that. So I'm going to stick on this a little bit. So high school version of Kelsey or younger version of Kelsey was somebody who hadn't quite her personality hadn't been unleashed or blossomed, if you will. It hadn't been nurtured to the point where you felt comfortable enough to do that. And I think that I have a similar story in the sense that I feel like I didn't find the avenue where my personality really came out in its fullest until I kind of got into group fitness. Talk to me about what you think allowed you to allow your personality to really come out, to really unleash, what made you feel comfortable enough or what made you feel confident enough in order for that to come out?
It's great, Nick. Honestly, I had no idea what was already within me. I had no clue what was already within me. And I think this is for so many, not even just girls, people, right? I tell everybody, you don't even know the capability that you have inside of you. You have no freaking clue. And for some people, they never find out their whole entire life. And that for me is the saddest thing ever, because it's like, there's so much within you that you had no clue. And we're fooled by our limitations, or we're fooled by what we can't do. And there's so much more internally. And so for me, what that really led to, and that's why I think I'm so passionate about fitness, is when I got to the gym and I was going consistently. And yes, I wasn't comfortable at first. I had no clue what the heck I was doing. But then I was hitting weights that I'm like, wait, did I really just hit that weight? Or did I just do that for X amount of reps? And I started unlocking this capability within, for my physical body. I'm like, geez, Louise, I had no clue I could have done this 2 hours ago, let alone 10 years ago, you know? And so for me, that really led to me stepping out of my comfort zone even more and discovering more of what I'm capable of and starting a business and having no clue what to do. And it's like, I didn't know I could do this stuff like deeply, and people think that I'm like, oh, she's already there. It's like, I had no clue, but I kept pursuing my heart, or I kept pursuing my discomfort. And every time I stepped out of that comfort zone, yeah, sometimes it was not great. Like sometimes I fell flat on my face. It's life, right? But sometimes I realized, man, I didn't even know I could do this. And we do, not to make this long story, but I want to share this because it might hit home with some of your audience. We do all women's strength events around the country. And it's women that are not massive competitors. They're not like this massive powerlifter bodybuilder. It's the mom of three that sometimes lifts in the gym and is never really truly maxed out. And Nick, I see it all the time in our events is women are scared out of their brain. They want to go out the back door before they even walk in the door. And they start to talk to me about it. And they're like, Kelsey, I'm nervous. I'm like, you got this. And they step up on that platform. They look at me and I look at them. I just give them like, you got this, type of look. And they pull up that weight. It could be 100, it could be 200, it could be 300 pounds, whatever that is. And it's like, as soon as they pull that weight up, all belief breaks of what they're capable of. And I see this every time. It gives me goosebumps every time I talk about this, because you see the expression in their eyes. Like, I had no clue I could do this. And there's one woman that this is exactly the message and why I do what I do. She goes, Kels, I had no clue I could, one, step on a platform and do that. And number two, lift the weight that I did. And she goes, if I can do that, what else can I do in my life that I'm limiting myself with? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly it. And so for me, that, to bring it back full circle, that confidence piece was really built by me pursuing whatever that discomfort or that hard was, and me unlocking everything that I already had within myself. I just had no clue I even had it.
Yeah, no doubt. That's another person in your why grab bag and your motivation grab bag right there. But no, I think that's okay. I mean, I see that as well. We do in the 10-week transformation, we do performance tests. So everybody tests themselves on certain things in week 1 and then again in week 10. And like, you say it so much in your messaging, and you said it there, like, I had no idea I could do this. I hear that all the time. And it's such an amazing feeling when you see somebody else do that. And it's such an empowering feeling, I know, for them to be able to see that they're capable of more, because then it like provides them with the belief that they can do more in other areas of their life. No doubt. I think fitness is such an awesome avenue for like specific, objective, tangible, obvious evidence of that. One of the things that is also similar about both of our stories is you were in a gym, somebody tapped you on the back of the shoulder and said, Kelsey, have you ever thought about doing a bodybuilding competition? And you're like, what? I was in a gym in between my sophomore and junior year of college, and my personal trainer from high school, we were talking, he was like, have you ever thought about being a trainer? I was like, no. No, long story short, no, I'm a trainer. I think that it's really important to, like, one of the things I think, like you said, we hold ourselves back because we don't see that future version of ourselves. We don't know what we're capable of. And oftentimes we need somebody else to reveal it to us. We need somebody else to speak that belief and speak that encouragement into us. And so we need to be around people who are willing to spread that encouragement, who are willing to believe in us as well. I just wanted to point that out. And I think that's such an important thing that all of us need to like strategically do, is just like be around people who are going to speak that stuff into us.
So I'm so glad you brought this up, Nick. And I call that borrowed belief, right? And then for people, especially early in their journeys, sometimes for me, like, I had no clue I could do the stuff that I could do. And there were more doubts than there was belief in myself back in the day, and especially early. And so then that's when I started kind of making some life changes. And then I got some comments like, oh, you're just the gym girl now, or, oh, I can't believe you're eating that food versus this food, And because my doubt bucket was a lot bigger than my belief bucket, I had to borrow that belief from some people. For you, that was your trainer, right? It's like I had to borrow that, them seeing it more in me than I saw it in myself then, Right. And so eventually that doubt bucket got a little bit smaller. My belief bucket got a little bit bigger. But if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, man, like, they just have so much belief in themselves. Or like, I wish I had that confidence. It's like, be very picky who you surround yourself with, and be around people that are going to speak life into you, that want to see you win, that want to see you do well, because that borrowed belief can change everything it changed exactly where you're at today,
Yeah,
that 100%. One little conversation or comment, that borrowed belief put you here today, which is crazy.
Yeah. And you got to continually do it every single step of your journey. Like right now, I definitely consider myself somebody who's a very confident individual, but I still have plenty of moments when somebody reaches out to me and speaks something like that into me where I'm like, man, I needed that right then. That was huge. That was big. Okay, before we kind of get to the wrap up portion of this, I'm just going to nerd out on kind of like the fitness and the recovery side of this. So 48 competitions in 48 states in 48 days. I know that one of your fears is, can I physically endure these 48 days? Talk to me about, you probably have a lot more specific planning to do and preparation to do before September 1, but talk to me a little bit about kind of nutrition, recovery, and different things that you're going to be doing so that you can physically withstand this challenge.
Oh man, I mean, it started 3, 4, 5 months ago with it.
Yeah.
And so when people see the September 1, like, yes, it starts September 1. I started way longer
Right.
because we need that, trajectory and progression with it. And so I'll even kind of share right now, and then I'll share on the trip. So right now I'm like really focused in on certain nutrition for me. I mean, I'm fueling my body more than I think many people would even be like, whoa, is it even capable of? And I'm very, very strategic. I'm very focused in on what I'm doing. I'm not limiting, like I can still have the ice cream, but I know that I have a big goal. So I have to prepare and fuel my body like I have a big goal, So that's really on point. From a training standpoint, Lord, Nick, it's everything. It's, oh man. I mean, I'm doing strength. I'm doing Olympic lifting, CrossFit sometimes, running. I have to get on my bike soon because I have a lot of biking events. So it's a good chunk of a little bit of everything because I have to be prepared for a little bit of everything. And so that's what's been very interesting of like a bodybuilding competition. There's very specific training that you do for it, endurance, very specific training that you do for it. When it's like, you got to show up on a Tuesday and do a powerlifting meet and do a 1 rep max, and then a Wednesday and do a marathon, like you need to be very versatile. You might not be the best in everything, but you have to be the pretty dang good in everything just to be able to endure. And so training's pretty specific right now for me. And then as we get onto the actual like September 1 date, thank God, amen, hallelujah, I have a massage therapist coming with me. And it was that she actually had a dream of traveling all 48 states. So I'm like, perfect. Like, let's go. So she's coming with me. I have a PT coming with me. And so I have an amazing team that is going to help me really keep this body in check. But it's not just body, it's more mental too. And that's one of the biggest things that I didn't want to underplay in my preparation for it. And especially during it is this guy, the thing between my 2 ears is what's either going to help me or really hurt me. And so I'm really trying to be particular about like what words I'm putting into my ears, what people I'm putting into my life to be able to mentally endure too, because that's what's going to be the biggest part.
Yeah, no, it's no doubt about it. It's definitely mental and physical, but it is definitely physical. No, I think that, like you said, your goal is very unique in the sense that you have to be super versatile. It's not just one style of training. At a much lesser degree, I had a goal earlier in the year to like see how much I could max in my bench, max in a squat, and then how fast I could do a 5K. And so that very different styles of training with the 5K than with the pure strength. So I somewhat can relate, but again, not nearly to the degree. But yeah, that's crazy to not necessarily be able to like focus in on one philosophy or one style of training. Yeah.
So different, and that's where for me, like I want to be really good here, really good here. And it's like, Kelsey, like you got to be good in everything. Like you can't be really good and then kind of crap in this area. So, and I'll con you into coming in the sprint triathlon with me too. So that'll be good.
I marked it on my calendar right when we booked the podcast. I think it might be a Wednesday, and luckily I don't coach people on Wednesday, so we'll see what happens.
I'm ready to swim with me on the first part.
That's awesome. Well, I think every single one of you guys listening knows some girl in your life or has known some girl in your life who doesn't have the confidence that they should have. Like I know plenty of girls in my life, whether it's my sister or whether it's the people that I coach, who like I look at them and I'm like, you should have all the confidence in the world. Like you're a freaking killer. Like you're strong, you're a badass, you've got things going for you. But for whatever reason, those people don't view the same thing about themselves. And a program like this, a unique program like this, like Rocks, has the ability to do that for so many people at a mass scale. So if you feel called to contribute to this, again, go to KelseyLensman.com. You can sponsor her, you can contribute however much or however little you'd like to, like anything matters. Anything else you want to share around Mission 48 or rocks or anything like that?
And Nick, I just want to say I appreciate you. I mean, I appreciate, and everybody listening to this, I think if I can get this across, like it'll make my entire day, is like you're a ripple effect for somebody else, you know? And I think for so many people, it's like, well, I'm not doing Mission 48, or I'm not hosting a podcast, or I'm not, training people. And it's like, well, what does it really matter for me? And it's like, no. Like you are the most important person to somebody else out there. Like you are their ripple effect. We're a cause of the ripple effect for you and your trainer. For me, it was my high school strength coach that said, "Oh, Kelsey, you can make a business or make a living out of this." So I'm like, "You're out of your dang mind." 5 years, 10 years later, I'm making a business out of this, And so I want to share with that one person listening of like, go all in on your journey, because people need you to be the best version of you, and that ripple effect that you can have. I mean, that changes generations right there. So I know it's not Mission 48, but I think it's just so important, because especially when I listen to podcasts back in the day, it's like, well, they're doing that thing. What does it mean for me? And it's like, no. Like you're so dang on important. You got to focus in on being that ripple effect for somebody else.
No doubt. I love that. I love the ripple effect. Well, Kelsey, just want to acknowledge you again for going out on a limb and taking a leap of faith on yourself and starting your business right out of college. Like, that's freaking badass. And for going out on a limb and going into these competitions that you felt like you had no business or no idea that you were ever going to get into, and just continually putting yourself outside of your comfort zone obviously has transformed the way that you act and the way that you show up in the world. And it's in such a positive way. So I want to acknowledge you for making all the changes in your life that you have.
Nick, I appreciate you tremendously. I mean, you're a byproduct of every decision you've made right now. So I'm excited to see your journey keep on skyrocketing.
I appreciate it. Well, I know y'all are like, I want to follow her journey throughout this. So make sure you go follow her on Instagram at Kelsey Lensman. And since it's not 48 weeks, it's 48 days, your goldfish mind will be able to stay focused throughout it. And again, if you want to contribute, go to KelseyLensman.com. But Kelsey, is there any other good place where people should go follow you, support you?
Instagram, we're doing a ton on YouTube too. So those are the two main like social platforms. And like Nick said, everything on the website will be up to date too.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, last question is, I think that getting closer to the best version of yourself is both a constant journey and a unique journey. I don't think that we ever actually reach the best version of ourselves. And I think the way that I'm going to get closer to my best self is going to be a little bit different than the way that you get closer to your best self. So this last question is for you personally. If there are 3 things that you could currently do, or 3 things that you could currently work on to get closer to the best version of Kelsey Lensman that you could possibly be, then what are those 3 things that you could currently do or currently work on?
Hot seat, baby. Let's go. For me, faith's really big in my life. So get closer to God, continually pour into that, because I hate to say this, but when life gets crazy, that's the one that goes first. So that's number 1. Secondly, 2, I would say to the best version of me, continue pouring into myself physically. I think for me, when I have my fitness in good check, I show up better for people. I'm a better human for everybody else around me. And then thirdly, I would say is pour into my relationships. I know for me too, once again, when you have a big goal, those can be kind of on the back burner. So especially as Mission 48 subsides October 18th, amen, hallelujah, I'll really want to also shift my focus to pouring into people a lot more too in my personal life.
That's great. 3 amazing things. Well, Kelsey, it's been awesome. I'm super grateful for having been connected to you, having been notified of your journey. Super excited to follow, super excited to meet you on September 27th here in Nashville. And y'all, make sure not just go follow her at Kelsey Lensman, go contribute at KelseyLensman.com, but like be around people who are going to pour into you, that allow you to build confidence in yourself and allow you to view yourself differently and allow you to believe in yourself differently, because that is such a big catalyst for growth, is being around other people who are willing to do that for you. But Kelsey, that's all we got today. It was awesome. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.